is Michael again. I was on Facebook sometime recently, and I fucking love science on Facebook. If you fucking love science, you should follow them because they're awesome. They posted, and it was a artist's rendition of a vertical farm to grow crops for densely populated countries that didn't have enough agricultural land to sustain the population that they had. I noticed a lot of the people who were commented with things like to just have population control laws. It always shocks me, and it shouldn't, when people open their mouths before they think. And it's hard because on those Facebook threads so many people comment that very few people are actually going to read anything you post, so I thought that I would talk about it here because probably fewer people are going to watch this. But I would like to share with you 5 different reasons why population control is probably not the way to handle the problem of feeding large populations in countries that are geographically small. The first one, and this is one that we've seen played out in countries that do have laws about procreation, is that when population control is made mandatory, it tends to lead people to forced abortions, dangerous abortions, and infanticide. Because there's no 100% safe form of contraception outside of sterilization and abstinence. And in most cases, sterilization and abstinence are not options. Procreating is really what being an animal is all about. And so if you start to create laws to try to stem that, then you're going to need to also try to stop nature in its tracks. And in this case, that would mean abortions, sterilization, forced abstinence, and other ethically really tricky things. Second reason why population control is not such a good idea is the fact that in most countries in the world, having a daughter is more challenging and harder on a family economically as having a son. And before you jump to conclusions and start judging the families who commit femicide on their infant baby girls, it's important to think about the fact that in some countries, if you only have daughters, you have to pay massive dowries in order for them to get married. In some countries where there's not a lot of options for menstrual hygiene, they can't work 1 week out of every month. It can be really, really hard for a family that is only allowed to have a certain number of children in some countries and in some cultures to have those children be girls. And as a result, a lot of baby girls are murdered after they're born, or as ultrasound technology becomes more available, abortion of baby girls. This is dangerous because what that means is in 15 years or 20 years or 25 years, you have a country full of young men who don't have any women to marry or date or have families with. You have a lot of men who are sexually frustrated, emotionally frustrated. That is a volatile situation for any country to be in. Number 3 may not seem so bad at first, and it's interesting because it's actually the intent of population control is that there's a steep decline in births, which is good, right? Because that's what we were going for. Except that those children then have to grow up into adults, and they need to be able to support their elders, who are going to outnumber them by a lot. For example, in China, the current birth rate is 1.4 children per fertile female, and that is considerably lower than the replacement birth rate of 2.1 children per fertile female. We sound like cows. Those children, when they become adults, have a really, really heavy economical burden to carry. Finally, a really, really good reason to not have population control is population control in a certain country is considered basis for asylum. And the reason for that is that a lot of women who maybe have had too many babies, maybe refuse to commit infanticide, maybe refuse to get abortions, maybe have been assaulted and are pregnant without wanting to be pregnant, these women can end up in really, really dangerous situations. When population control is put into place, the burden is on the women who get pregnant, whether or not they plan to, whether or not they wanted to. The burden of maintaining a low population is on them. So what can be done about countries that are vastly overpopulated and are struggling to support the people that they already have? Women who are well educated tend to have fewer babies. They tend to have those babies later in life. The babies they have tend to be more likely to survive. And I'm 25 and I have 2 children already. I was married when I was 19. So I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with having children at a young age. But in countries where there are concerns of women having 4 or 5 or 6 children, I think that educating the women, and then very, very much so also the men involved, because it takes 2 to tango. It's not like the woman carries the child, but this whole thing is at her responsibility. Somebody got her pregnant. Education. I don't know why I can't talk today. Blah, 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 blah. Also, side note, overpopulation does exist in some countries. And when I say overpopulation, what I mean is too many people and not enough resources to support those people as far as healthcare, education, and food goes. Overpopulation on a global scale may not exist. Links down there. I'll talk about it in another video. I will see you soon. Have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, or night.